This past April, I found myself sitting next to my most recent friend. We chatted as all friends do about our families and the things we were excited for that weekend. He told me about the remodel he was planning for his garage, and I talked endlessly about the Passover Seders I was so excited to attend. And then our conversation turned to politics. I listened to my new friend, an immigrant, the father of a young daughter, and a caring and courageous police officer. He told me about how he had voted for the other guy. I looked at my new friend and I couldn't believe that our beliefs were just suddenly so at odds. You see, I had counted my new friend among the good guys, and in my very small bubbles, the good guys just didn't really vote for the other guy. Have you ever had these moments? Did you also jump to the most obvious question? How do I have a friendship, let alone a conversation, with someone whose ideas are so at odds with my own? This question becomes even more complicated when you remove the backstory. It's one thing to find common ground with a friend, but what about a coworker, an acquaintance, or someone on the other side of a protest? Through my work, I have spent time in Chicago's poorest and most violent communities, sometimes in the office of a nonprofit organization, and sometimes at a police station. And the vastly different beliefs that I have been blessed to be exposed to have led me to linger endlessly on this question. And if I have, while I have these opportunities to hear vastly different beliefs, do my peers? Where do millennials who don't spend time befriending cops 10 years their senior manage to find a friend who has opinions diametrically opposed to their own? And even if they did find such a friend, how would they have these conversations? How would they find meaning in their newfound friendships? I think that the answer lies in empathy, understanding the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of another person. In other words, take a walk around in someone else's shoes before you rush to judgment or hatred. The Torah tells us, love your neighbor as yourself, but predicates the idea of love on the idea of rebuke. Rebuke your neighbor that you shall not be held responsible for his sins in the future. Go ahead, the Torah tells us, take a walk around in someone else's shoes. Come to understand him and learn to love him as you would love yourself, and then rebuke him so that you're not held responsible for his sins? Really? One might understand this verse as the Torah telling us, don't stand idly by as your neighbor does something improper or incorrect. Stand up, step in, say something, anything. The rabbis of the Talmud have many opinions on this verse. One of them argued that we can, maybe we must rebuke our fellow, but only with the most pure of intentions, without ulterior motives. Still, other rabbis argued that there was not a single person among their generation who was capable of properly wording a rebuke. Well, if great sages, such as Rabbi Akiva, felt that he was not capable of properly wording a rebuke against his friend, who are we to do so? How could we possibly find the capacity to rebuke our fellow when Rabbi Akiva could not? I think that instead of focusing on rebuking those with whom we disagree, we should instead find opportunities to find common ground, to open ourselves to their opinions and learn to listen with empathy to what they have to say, and we can each learn something in the process. Sitting next to my most recent friend, I opened myself to his point of view instead of closing the door on our friendship. I listened with empathy to what he had to say, and I heard out his opinions. I took a walk in his shoes instead of belittling his experiences and pointedly criticizing what he thought was right. And in the process, we each learned something from each other.